Okay, so I've had a few minutes just to put all the leads on the relays and various components to get things ready. So the way I like to do things when I'm building something, is to try to go a little bit at a time and do different parts and determine that those are working before I go and finish the whole project. That way, if there is a problem, you find it early and you don't have to do a whole lot of backtracking or tracing or wondering what went wrong, right? So I'm going to start with the power supplies, right, which I think is probably the most important part of the deal. And although it's not complicated at all, it's the most complicated part to this unit. All right, so we'll start with that. So I'm going to go and put in the jack, the DC input jack, and the indicator lamp. All right.
Titted turbo mode. All right, so we're speeding things up so you don't have to listen to me babble endlessly just for the duration of the speed up, which is at 10 times. All right, so here I'm putting in the power supply first. I'm putting in the voltage regulator right there and the indicator lamp and the DC inlet. I'm screwing down right there, screwing down the voltage regulator and the associated parts down to the chassis to create the ground connections in the heat sink. So we're doing a little wiring, amount of frame there. Okay, there we go. Some more wiring, screwing in, making things tighter. There's some lead dress for you, right? Trying to make things look neat. Here he comes around second, headed for third. Slides, he's safe. Okay, so there we go. We got the more wires and lead dressing, trying to tuck everything around. So we're doing the power supply, right? So we got the entrance to the, I'm trying to talk really fast. I don't even need to. We're checking that the power supply is working. We brought out the power supply and a cable. We're soldering into the voltage regulator. And let's see what we're doing there. We're putting in the ground now. And testing a little bit each time that you go along just to make sure that things are working, right? So you don't have to backtrack and look at goofy things. There we have some success. Obviously, the lamp is coming on, so we know we have the right voltage. And we tested the voltage with the multimeter on the other side on the output of the voltage regulator to see if we have 5 volts, and we did. All right, so the next thing we're doing is we're putting in, that's the buffer board there in my hand, soldered in the ground, and there's the, what's that? Yeah, that's the 9 volt, right, to power it. As the 5 volts are just for the relays, right? The buffer board's running on 9. So that's why we needed the regulator, right? Because we're coming in at 9, and then we're going down to 5 on the regulator. So we didn't need to go out the other side of the regulator to go into the buffer board. Okay, there we put in the switch, right? The foot switch. Got that in. Put in the other foot switch, wing, testing it, seeing which way the switch is orientated, right? Which way these switches work, which terminals relate to what. So now we're putting in the voltage to the switch because the relays are going to be controlled by the voltage. You can hear thunder in the background. I hope I don't get killed. We got a hell of a thunderstorm here today. So there we are. We're putting in the relays now, the relay boards. Those are 2 double pole, double throws on there with a little diode on the board for protection and other such good things. Right there, I'm wiring in the power supply first, right? Those are the grounds, the black wire. Putting those in. The red are for the positive, and that goes to the switch, right? So when you flip the switch, you're either going to send voltage or remove voltage to those relays, triggering the loops to work in the fashion that they were intended. All right, so let's see what we got now. Now we put, we're taking out we're powered it up. I think we're checking to see if the relays were working there, doing a little bit of something continuity testing with the multimeter, and that relay seemed to be working fine, so we moved on. More wire stripping, more soldering, more burning fingers. There we go, putting in, that's the ground. That looks like the ground lead over there. That is the hot lead over to the switch. Solder that. Good. Test it. Bing. Okay, it's working. Test. Good. I think I must have been taking some pink drink right there during the break. Now we're using some white wire to bring the signal, right? So the white is the signal. So I'm moving, looks like right there from the buffer board to the first relay, right? Because we're going input, buffer, relay, loops, either in or out, to the next relay loops in or out, and then to the output jack, right? So over there I'm working on the second relay, which is for the phase 90. I know I keep mixing the flanger and the phase 90 up. That's because I'm trying to do too many things at the same time. It's hard to work and talk and look at the camera to make sure everything's working at the same time without sometimes goofing. So there I'm putting in some of the switchcraft jacks, put a little lock ring in there, right? So we get a good lock washer, a good ground connection, right? And using the nut driver to just kind of squish them home, make sure they're nice and tight. Wing, 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 wing. Wah, 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 wah. There it is. Look at that. Oh, you can barely see it. Put it back down. All right, there we go. Testing it. Oh, no, not testing it. Orientating it. So this is related to, I was talking about where the flanger is going, right? Because the flanger, the MXR flanger is odd. So that jack I'm futzing with right there is actually going to be the send, which is kind of, backwards from what you would think it would be, right? And that's the return. But it lines up with the inputs on a MXR, right? They're kind of, when you orientate the MXR pedal, the flanger, properly with the loop box, that's how it sort of works out. So on this side right there, that's the phase 90 side. That jack I'm working on right there is the return, as expected. And the return going to the output jack for the whole unit right there. Let's see what I did. Yeah, okay. Now we're testing continuity to make sure that the signal is passing through correctly. It was. I must be going to answer the doorbell, or I don't know, make some pink drink, or maybe the screen's frozen. I'm not sure. I think that's the end of the video. All right, so let's get back to me talking with the real thing. All right, see it.
Let's fire it up and test it. So let me get the amp set up, and then we'll check it out and see if it's functioning. Because obviously with the buffer board in the way, we're not going to be able to test for continuity straight through. All right, so I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. I put I forgot about putting on the big old barefoot buttons, right? And they secure nicely with 3 Allen screws, set screws around, so very secure. Comes with the tool. They're really nice. I mean, nice machined aluminum. Well made, and it came with the tool, so what more could you ask for? So let's give this thing a shot. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about was there was one correction I need to make, which was in the wiring diagram, doing it from memory. I had determined 2 ways when I was building the prototypes of these things, whether the signal should be normally open or normally closed, activating the loops. And I found that the more reliable way was to have no loops in the energized position. So in a sense, when you cut the voltage to the relays, they trip and bring in the loops. And I found that to be actually more reliable or faster, for some reason, maybe I'm nuts, than the other way around. So I had to make a quick correction, which was just to move the lead that powers the relay from the board from this terminal to this terminal on both of them. So no biggie, right? So now we're all set to go. I set up the little amp on the floor down here. I'll show it to you. It's a little Supro. It's kind of cool. I've had it for a while. It's like a little Supro Super. Has the little 6x9 or whatever oval speaker in it. Have my guitar. So let's test the so that's working. So that's going into the amp, right? So we'll plug in our unit. Okay. Right, and we're going to give it a test. So that goes in that side, and then our guitar cable goes in on this side. There we go. And then we should be getting just signal straight through with nothing in there but buffered. So just for fun, let's see I want to see what it sounds like just straight into the amp to see how much the buffer is actually changing things. So I'm going to unplug this and go right into the guitar from here. To my ear, it's pretty darn close. Okay, we're in business. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in the effects. Right, so here's the flanger, and here's the phaser. Right, so I have some pre-cut here. Right, some of the Three Monkeys cable with the audio connectors on the ends that I had already here, so I wouldn't have to make them. So they're off, and they're pretty much what you would use in this case. They're off my board that uses basically the same switcher. The only thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to make some power. Make some plugs for the power. So I'm going to use some more red. So I'm going to demonstrate again how easy it is to make the Three Monkey stuff. So I got my box cutter, just putting it here, making a nice clean cut on the ends. Right, so you have something good to work with. No frays, or you don't want to use scissors really, or wire cutters, because those don't cut as cleanly as a razor blade, like guillotine style, straight across the cable itself. Right, so give this thing, I always like to test my cables to make sure I did it correctly, and I usually have no issues at all. Yep, that's good. And it's so quick. So this is 18, right? So I'm going to unplug the unit real quick. So this is our 18 volts, 100 milliamps. This is a True Tone unit. Let's just make sure that these are good. Okay, I think that should be good for the phaser. All right, we'll move that out of the way. Now we got a power. Oh, well, this guy actually doesn't have one. I think there's a battery in here, though. All right, so we only have to make one cable. I have to modify that. When we do the rehousing, I think that we're going to do it with this one because it's not vintage. And if I mess it up, I'm not going to feel bad that I destroyed my phaser that I bought when I was in high school back in the 1800s. All right, so let us once again begin testing the system. Okay. See? Trying to figure out what I could play with one hand. So I can't get my feet up that high on the bench. Well, looks like it works. So I'm going to button it up, basically. Put the Loctite down on the screws, holding the boards down. And then I'll label it with the sends and returns, input, output. And it should be ready to go to the our friend who asked me to build this for it. So thanks again for watching, and I think we're going to do a demo video of it too when it's done with with it on the floor. All right, so I'll see you next time.